Day 145. 1 Chronicles 25-27. Additionally, David and the commanders of the army set apart some of the sons of Asaph, Heman, and Jeduthun to prophesy with the accompaniment of lyres, harps, and cymbals. The following is the list of the men who performed this service, from the sons of Asaph, Zaccur, Joseph, Nethaniah, and Asarelah. These sons of Asaph were under the direction of Asaph, who prophesied under the direction of the king. From the sons of Jeduthun, Gedaliah, Zeri, Jeshaiah, Shimei, Hashabiah, and Mattithiah, 6 in all, under the direction of their father Jeduthun, who prophesied with the harp, giving thanks and praise to the Lord. From the sons of Heman, Bukkiah, Mattaniah, Uzziel, Shebuel, Jerimoth, Hananiah, Hanani, Elihu, Gedaliah, Romamti-ezer, Jeshaiah, Mattaniah, and Mahachioth. All these sons of Heman the king's seer were given him through the promises of God to exalt him, for God had given Heman 14 sons and 3 daughters. All these were under the direction of their fathers for the music of the house of the Lord with cymbals, harps, and lyres, for the service of the house of God. Asaph, Jeduthun, and Heman were under the direction of the king. Together with their relatives, who were all trained and skillful in the songs of the Lord, they numbered 288. They cast lots for their duties, young and old alike, teacher as well as pupil. The first lot, which was for Asaph, fell to Joseph, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the second to Gedaliah, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the third to Zaccur, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the fourth to Zeri, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the fifth to Nethaniah, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the sixth to Bukkiah, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the seventh to Asarelah, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the eighth to Jeshaiah, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the ninth to Mattaniah, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the 10th to Shimei, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the 11th to Asarelah, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the 12th to Hashabiah, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the 13th to Shebuel, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the 14th to Mattithiah, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the 15th to Jerimoth, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the 16th to Hananiah, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the 17th to Jeshaiah, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the 18th to Hananiah, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the 19th to Mattaniah, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the 20th to Elihu, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the 21st to Hosah, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the 22nd to Gedaliah, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, the 23rd to Mahachioth, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all, and the 24th to Romamti-ezer, his sons, and his brothers, 12 in all. These were the divisions of the gatekeepers, from the Korahites, Meshelemiah son of Korah, one of the sons of Asaph. Meshelemiah had sons, Zechariah the firstborn, Jediel the second, Zebadiah the third, Jathniel the fourth, Elam the fifth, Jehohanan the sixth, and Elihonah the seventh. And Obed-edom also had sons, Shimei the firstborn, Jehozabad the second, Joah the third, Zaccur the fourth, Nethaniah the fifth, Amiel the sixth, Issachar the seventh, and Pulethi the eighth. For God had blessed Obed-edom. Also to his son Shimei were born sons who ruled over their families because they were strong, capable men. Shimei's sons were Othni, Rephael, Obed, and Elzabad. His brothers were Elihu and Semachiah, also capable men. All these were descendants of Obed-edom, they and their sons and brothers were capable men with strength to do the work, 62 in all from Obed-edom. Meshelemiah also had sons and brothers who were capable men, 18 in all. Hosah the Merarite also had sons, Shimei the first, although he was not the firstborn, his father had appointed him as the first, Hilkiah the second, Tebaliah the third, and Zechariah the fourth. The sons and brothers of Hosah numbered 13 in all. These divisions of the gatekeepers, through their chief men, had duties for ministering in the house of the Lord, just as their brothers did. They cast lots for each gate, according to their families, young and old alike. The lot for the east gate fell to Shelemiah. Then lots were cast for his son Zechariah, a wise counselor, and the lot for the north gate fell to him. The lot for the south gate fell to Obed-edom, and the lot for the storehouses to his sons. The lots for the west gate and the Shallecheth Gate on the ascending highway fell to Shuppim and Hosah. There were guards stationed at every watch. Each day there were 6 Levites on the east, 4 on the north, 4 on the south, and 2 pairs at the storehouse. As for the court on the west, there were 4 at the highway and 2 at the court. These were the divisions of the gatekeepers who were descendants of Korah and Merari. Now their fellow Levites were in charge of the treasuries of the house of God and the treasuries of the dedicated things. From the descendants of Ladan, who were Gershonites through Ladan and heads of the families of Ladan the Gershonite, were Jehaieli, the sons of Jehaieli, Zetham and his brother Joel. They were in charge of the treasuries of the house of the Lord. From the Amramites, the Azarites, the Hebronites and the Uzzielites, Shebuel, a descendant of Gershom son of Moses, was the officer in charge of the treasuries. His relatives through Eliezer included Rehabiah his son, Jeshaiah his son, Joram his son, Zichri his son, and Shelomith his son. This Shelomith and his brothers were in charge of all the treasuries for the things dedicated by King David, by the heads of families who were the commanders of thousands and of hundreds, and by the army commanders. They had dedicated some of the plunder from their battles to the repair of the house of the Lord. Everything that had been dedicated by Samuel the seer, Saul son of Kish, Abner son of Ner, and Job son of Zeruiah, along with everything else that was dedicated, was under the care of Shelomith and his brothers. From the Izharites, Hananiah and his sons had the outside duties as officers and judges over Israel. From the Hebronites, Hashabiah and his relatives, 1,700 capable men, had charge of the affairs of Israel west of the Jordan for all the work of the Lord and for the service of the king. As for the Hebronites, Jerijah was the chief of the Hebronites, according to the genealogies of his ancestors. In the 40th year of David's reign the records were searched, and strong, capable men were found among the Hebronites at Jazer in Gilead. Among Jerijah's relatives there were 2,700 capable men who were heads of families. King David appointed them over the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh for every matter pertaining to God and to the affairs of the king. This is the list of the Israelites, the heads of families, the commanders of thousands and of hundreds, and their officers who served the king in every matter concerning the divisions on rotating military duty each month throughout the year. There were 24,000 men in each division. Jashobeam son of Zabdiel was in charge of the first division, which was assigned the first month. There were 24,000 men in his division. He was a descendant of Perez and chief of all the army commanders for the first month. Dodai the Ahohite was in charge of the division for the second month, and Mikloth was the leader. There were 24,000 men in his division. The third army commander, as chief for the third month, was Benaiah son of Jehoiada the priest. There were 24,000 men in his division. This Benaiah was mighty among the 30 and was over the 30, and his son Ammizabad was in charge of his division. The fourth, for the fourth month, was Job's brother Asahel, and his son Zebadiah was commander after him. There were 24,000 men in his division. The fifth, for the fifth month, was the commander Shamhuth the Israelite. There were 24,000 men in his division. The sixth, for the sixth month, was Ira son of Achish the Tekoite. There were 24,000 men in his division. The seventh, for the seventh month, was Helez the Pelonite, an Ephraimite. There were 24,000 men in his division. The eighth, for the eighth month, was Sibbecai the Hushathite, a Zerahite. There were 24,000 men in his division. The ninth, for the ninth month, was Abiezer the Anathothite, a Benjamite. There were 24,000 men in his division. The 10th, for the 10th month, was Maharai the Netophathite, a Zerahite. There were 24,000 men in his division. The 11th, for the 11th month, was Benaiah the Pirathonite, an Ephraimite. There were 24,000 men in his division. The 12th, for the 12th month, was Heldai the Netophathite, from the family of Othniel. There were 24,000 men in his division. These officers were in charge of the tribes of Israel. Over the Reubenites was Eliezer son of Zichri, over the Simeonites was Shephisha son of Makkah, over Levi was Hashabiah son of Kemuel, over Aaron was Zadok, over Judah was Elihu. One of David's brothers, over Issachar was Omri son of Michael, over Zebulun was Ishmael son of Obadiah, over Naphtali was Jerimoth son of Israel, over the Ephraimites was Hoshea son of Azachiah, over one of the half-tribes of Manasseh was Joel son of Pedaiah, over the half-tribe of Manasseh in Gilead was Iddo son of Zechariah, over Benjamin was Jasiel son of Abner, and over Dan was Asarelah son of Jeroham. These were the leaders of the tribes of Israel. David did not count the men aged 20 or under, because the Lord had said that he would make Israel as numerous as the stars of the sky. Job son of Zeri began to count the men but did not finish. For because of the census wrath came upon Israel, and the number was not entered in the book of the Chronicles of King David. Azmaveth son of Adil was in charge of the royal storehouses. Jonathan son of Uzziel was in charge of the storehouses in the country, in the cities, in the villages, and in the fortresses. Ezri son of Caleb was in charge of the workers in the fields who tilled the soil. Shimei the Ramathite was in charge of the vineyards. Zabdi the Shiphmite was in charge of the produce of the vineyards for the wine vats. Baal-Hanan the Gedrite was in charge of the olive and sycamore trees in the foothills. Joash was in charge of the stores of olive oil. Shitrai the Sharonite was in charge of the herds grazing in Sharon. Shaphat son of Adlai was in charge of the herds in the valleys. Obel the Ishmaelite was in charge of the camels. Jedaiah the Meronothite was in charge of the donkeys. Jaziz the Hagrite was in charge of the flocks. All these officials were in charge of King David's property. David's uncle Jonathan was a counselor, he was a man of insight and a scribe. Jehiel son of Hachmoni attended to the sons of the king. Ahithophel was the king's counselor. Hushai the Archite was the king's friend. Ahithophel was succeeded by Jehoiada son of Benaiah, then by Abiathar. Job was the commander of the king's army. John 9 verses 1 to 23. Now as Jesus was passing by, he saw a man blind from birth, and his disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, Neither this man nor his parents sinned, but this happened so that the works of God would be displayed in him. While it is daytime, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming, when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. When Jesus had said this, he spit on the ground, made some mud, and applied it to the man's eyes. Then he told him, Go, wash in the pool of Siloam, which means sent. So the man went and washed, and came back seeing. At this, his neighbors and those who had formerly seen him begging began to ask, Isn't this the man who used to sit and beg? Some claimed that he was, but others said, No, he just looks like him. But the man kept saying, I am the one. How then were your eyes opened? They asked. He answered, The man they call Jesus made some mud and anointed my eyes, and he told me to go to Siloam and wash. So I went and washed and received my sight. Where is he? They asked. I do not know, he answered. They brought to the Pharisees the man who had been blind. Now the day on which Jesus had made the mud and opened his eyes was a Sabbath. So the Pharisees also asked him how he had received his sight. The man answered, He put mud on my eyes, and I washed, and now I can see. Because of this, some of the Pharisees said, This man is not from God, for he does not keep the Sabbath. But others said, How can a sinful man perform such signs? And there was division among them. So once again they asked the man who had been blind, What do you say about him, since it was your eyes he opened? He is a prophet, the man replied. The Jews still did not believe that the man had been blind and had received his sight until they summoned his parents and asked, Is this your son, the one you say was born blind? So how is it that he can now see? His parents answered, We know he is our son, and we know he was born blind. But how he can now see or who opened his eyes, we do not know. Ask him. He is old enough to speak for himself. His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jews. For the Jews had already determined that anyone who confessed Jesus as the Christ would be put out of the synagogue. That was why his parents said, He is old enough. Ask him.